Plus, you're right, they do get slippery. These fish should come right by us. They should be coming between us and that boat, right along our lines, right to where we have the chum. We'll see what happens here, but we're in pretty good position. I can see them bubbling right in here. So I'm gonna, this one right here, There he is, that's it. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's him. Watch those other ones. Better get this line right here. That belt. All right. Yes, sir. No, not yet. You may want to move one way or the other for me. He's coming right at you. All right, there's bad form. Not paying any attention. That boat there just jumped the fish. Mm-hmm. Dang, you let it go. Yep. Yep. We had that fish on and just pulled loose. Stayed with the school. Never really jumped much, none. But that's the way it is. They get off. Now, that boat right there, you need to be courteous around these schools. My fish was headed right toward him. It turned out it didn't matter, but you need to maybe get out of the way and give the guy some room. You feel this drag right here, it is hot where he's pulling line. Okay, good start though. We looked ahead of us down the beach and saw this school of fish coming. The boats were on their trolling motors working the fish. That's one way to do it. What I like to do sometimes is try to get the line on these fish and anchor. And they're fishing live baits and we're fishing the dead baits. And we'll get our dead baits out and we'll get a little chum out on the water. And we got in perfect line with them. And they came right through and picked up one of our baits. And so that's pretty much what we do here. You can chase them or you can anchor where you know they like to go and wait for them to come to you. And that's going to be the way we start. If we have to start following the fish, we will. But the fish run a definite pattern up and down this beach. And we got a pretty good idea of where it is. So we're just going to sit right here and let them come to us. This is the normal tackle used when dead bait fishing for tarpon here on Tampa Bay. 4/0 reel with a good solid drag that'll hold about 300 yards of 50-pound mono. This rod is 8 to 9 feet long. The reason for that long rod is they're much easier to cast. And if you were going to be doing a lot of casting, you want to cast for longer distances, so an 8 or 9 foot rod, much easier to cast, and I like that 8 or 9 foot bend. when you get a big fish on like that, I like that extra rod for the bend. So that's the standard rod and reel type action. The leader's a 150-pound mono and use a 9.0 Gamakatsu hook. You can see there that it's crimped. When you're in the 150-pound mono range, it's pretty hard to tie a good knot that'll stay. So crimps work extremely well, and if they're crimped right, they're 100%. This is the bait. This is the preferred bait here on the west coast of Florida. It's the Gulf Menhaden, but here we call it shad. Real slimy bait, real oily bait. You can use pinfish, you can use mackerel, ladyfish, mullet, things like that, but for some reason over the years this has developed into everybody's favorite. And fresher is better. You can catch them the day of or the day after. They work real good. After about 2 days, even if you've got them real ice, they start to get soft. So they're better the day of, or at least at the longest the day after, iced down very well. And you can do it a number of different ways, but the way I like to do it and have done it is cut it off right in front of the gills. And the reason you want to do that is because you can see in here there's the guts and the blood and stuff like that. And when you throw it out there on the bottom, it has a little scent to it. And maybe with a tide moving that scent around, the tarpon will find it a little bit easier. And the way we hook it is go right there through the tail. And as you go through the tail, you got to make sure that you go through the tailbone. If you don't go through the tailbone when you get ready to throw it, a lot of times the bait will pull off the hook. So the tailbone gives it some bite when it goes through there. Always check the point of the hook to make sure there's not a scale on there. And then I'm going to wind up and throw it. And we're fishing 6 rods today, so I'll fish 2 off the back, 2 off the middle, and 2 off the front. Set them in the rod holder in gear. Give a little bit of slack out there. You don't want to give him too much slack where that fish will swallow it down in his gut. Has a possibility of dying after a long fight. You give them a little bit of slack and they don't get it in the gut, they get it in the mouth. And as these rods are sitting there, when a fish comes by, you'll see that line start to move off, and all of a sudden it'll just bend double, and you go over there and pick it up, set the hook, and hopefully it's a tarpon. You do get some trash fish, there's pinfish, there's crabs and stuff like that, so you need to check your baits fairly often. And if you're going on a good day's tarpon fishing 6 rods, you're gonna need, probably 100 baits to get you through the day. And we also do a little chumming. I'll show you about that in a minute. I like to do some chumming for sure. And I'll take these shad. There's a number of ways to cut them up. You cut them like this in little pieces. Sometimes we'll split it down the middle and cut it, and those pieces will end up 2 pieces instead of 1. I don't know that it really matters, but what I'll do is I'll cut up two baits for each corner of the boat. And I'll throw 2 off one corner, and then we'll go all the way around the boat. So I'll have a pretty good circle of chum all around my boat. And when these fish come by, they're traveling on the bottom, they'll pick up that chum, and it'll stop them, and they'll be grubbing around on the bottom. And the idea is that they pick up your baits that are down there on the bottom. You want to get the bait out away from the boat. So this is a little summertime game that they sell at Publix and Walgreens and places like that, where the ball comes with it. You get 2 of these highlight cestas or scoops, and they play catch on the beach with it. Well, it works real well for throwing the chum out, and it doesn't hurt your arm or your shoulder. And all you do is you just scoop it in there, and then when you throw it, you want to kind of spread it the best way you can. And that way, if I spread it off each corner just like that, we'll get a complete circle of chum all the way around the boat. Maybe chum every 30 minutes, something like that. If I see some fish coming and we haven't chummed in a while, I might put a little extra chum out there just to be sure. Now, you need to check your baits too about every, I'd say 15 minutes and see how they're doing. If they're okay, you can bump it up to 30. But you want to make sure that you do check them and keep your baits fresh, because the pinfish and the crabs and stuff like that, they'll strip that bait clean. There won't be anything there when the tarpon come by.